Hello and welcome to Notebook. Today we shall talk on a very important chapter from your syllabus, which is coordinate geometry. But exactly what do we mean by the term coordinate geometry? It is basically a field of geometry which we can study with the help of coordinate points. You'll be able to understand this concept better as we proceed with our video. But to know more about this subject of coordinate geometry, we need to remember how the number line looks like. A line where numbers are represented is called a number line. As you know, all the numbers between minus infinity to plus infinity are placed on the number line, and 0 is at the midpoint. Numbers which are on the right side of 0 represent positive numbers, and those which are on the left side represent negative numbers. Let us consider this number line as the x-axis. Thus, we can say that the side of the x-axis with positive values, or the right side of 0 in this case, is called the positive x-axis, and the side with negative values, or the left side of 0, is called the negative x-axis. Now, look at this map of an amusement park placed on a wall. Suppose you are standing at the ticket counter, which is the midpoint of our x-axis. On your right are the restrooms, and on your left is the mirror maze. If you are asked how many units away are the restrooms and the mirror maze from you on the map, you can easily say that the restrooms are 8 units to your right and the mirror maze is 6 units on your left. But if you are asked how many units is the bumper car in front of you, or how many units is the Ferris wheel behind you, then you will require another line to measure the units. This is the y-axis. Now you will be able to tell easily that the bumper car is 5 units above you and Ferris wheel is 6 units below you on the map. The midpoint of the x-axis and that of the y-axis intersect at a point called the point of origin and denoted by O. Thus, we can again say that the points above the origin along the y-axis is called the positive y-axis, and the points below the origin along the y-axis is called the negative y-axis. A plane is formed by these two perpendicular axes. We will be able to plot any point on this plane. Friends, do you know what this plane is called? This is the Cartesian plane. If we draw parallel lines to the x-axis and also parallel to the y-axis, we get a plane with grids. Now let me tell you an interesting story before we learn more about Cartesian planes. A French philosopher and mathematician by the name of René Descartes loved to lie in bed and think. One day, while lying in his bed, he came up with a brilliant idea of how to describe the position of a point. He thought that in olden times, navigators described the position of their ships effortlessly. He applied a similar technique of describing the position of a point by using two lines, called the x-axis and the y-axis, arranged perpendicular to each other. In his book, La Géométrie, published in 1637, Descartes described his theory in detail, and from then onwards, this plane came to be known as the Cartesian plane, named after him. Now, wasn't that amazing? Now, let us again go back to our map of the amusement park. Suppose you are standing at the ticket counter, which represents the point of origin, and you want to visit the Snake Shack. But you can walk only on one of the lines forming the plane of the graph. How will you do it? You will walk 5 units to your right on the x-axis and then walk 6 units parallel to the y-axis until you reach the Snake Shack. So the Snake Shack can be said is 5 units on the x-axis and 6 units on the y-axis. Friends, the concept that you learnt right now is very important. Keep this in your mind as you will need it to apply in our second part of this topic. Now if I tell you that the Snake Shack lies in the first quadrant of the plane, you'll be confused, right? Then let me help you understand it better. The Cartesian plane divides the graph into 4 regions. The x-axis and the y-axis divides the plane of the graph paper into 4 regions. These 4 regions are the 4 quadrants of the plane. Let us try to identify them one by one. In this image, the region bound by XOY is the first quadrant. The region bound by X-OY is the second quadrant. The region bound by X-OY- represents the third quadrant, and the region bound by XOY- represents the fourth quadrant. With that concept, we come to the end of today's discussion. I hope that you have been able to understand about the Cartesian plane. We shall meet you soon in our second video where we shall try plotting some points on this plane. Until then, Team Notebook wishes you goodbye.